Alright, I'm going to be making this video to review my Bullseye build for both PVE and PVP. So we'll just get right into it. So we're starting with the bingo. So the bingo accessories, going to be using integrated, precise, and or the precision optic and the SR mag for the extended. This is just going to go ahead and give us a quicker reload, which you desperately need with the sniper rifles. I was using the light optic, but it seems they have fixed these optics so they are much cleaner now to look down, so it's actually a much cleaner optic. So I'm going to go ahead and be using that now. And then rolling into the mods. So you've got a few different weapon mods you can run. Primarily we're going to be running the vulnerability amplifier. So for this one, you're going to want to get weak spot damage. Next after that, we'd be looking for weapon damage if you're lucky enough to get it on there. Past that, we'd be looking for HP. So in tier, it would be weak spot, then weapon damage, HP, and then finally weapon damage reduction, reload speed, magazine size. I generally try to fit 10% magazine size across all my mods. That seems to add one extra bullet into the sniper rifle, which is great. You get that extra shot. Gives you a little bit more options. If you happen to miss a bullet, you're not going to have to reload and get into that long animations for reload. I'm going to be running with Wildfire. I actually have two different Wildfires. For PvP, I run the Rapid Shot style. It's going to get your magazine with the extended pistol mag up to 17 bullets, which gives you a lot of wiggle room in PvP. And because you're not needing to kill something with 3 million health, the negative 15% attack isn't going to be that big of a difference. And the rate of fire increase is actually a huge help, especially if you're a sniper and you're using this as your backup. If somebody's rushing you down, you can pull out your Wildfire, Rapid Fire. It's almost like having a submachine gun on you. Another option, which I'll go over here later, is the Doombringer. You can use that as a backup. For PvE, going into it, I use the Precision style. That's going to give you 25% extra attack, a lower fire rate. With this, you're going to be, for PvE, wanting to stack as much damage as you can. Obviously, if you're hitting for 10,000 with a pistol per bullet in PvE, going down to 8,500 is not a huge difference. It's still probably going to be a 2 to 3 tap, so that's where the fire rate I think is better in PvP. But for PvE, because you're wanting to do sustained damage, we're going to use the Precision style. As for mods, you can run a couple different mods on here. For PvE, I do like to run the recovery mod on my pistol. For PvE, the build is mostly focused around actually the Wildfire. It's going to do more sustained damage, and I use the sniper rifle more as a burst tool. Or when you get your Renegade stacks up, which I'll talk about here in a minute, you can use it to basically run through a silo or a monolith and basically just be one-tapping adds through the whole way through. But the recovery mark on the pistol, kind of the same thing. Weak spot damage is going to be top tier, followed by weapon damage, HP, and then any kind of damage reduction that you can add on to it. For PvE, damage to great ones helps a lot. Most elites and normal enemies are going to be dying in 1 to 2 bullets anyways, so it's not a huge benefit to stack that damage on here. For PvP, we will use the vulnerability. Defeating an enemy in PvP, you would actually have to get the finish on them with this weapon. So usually if you're pulling out your pistol to finish, it could come in clutch situation, maybe that extra 15%, but usually you're going to be using a resonator or activator to heal anyways, so I wouldn't be running this in PvP. Another viable option is marked enemies do 20% less damage. This could be good. The Wildfire marks enemies like crazy, so kind of a viable option. 20% damage if you're running the Savior set, that gives you an additional damage reduction. If you're using the chest mod, which I'll talk about here in a minute, that's even more damage reduction. So stacking it all up, you might be able to outgun somebody who's rushing you down with like the Power Surge SMG or You know, maybe a Doombringer shotgun's trying to close the distance on you. That might make the difference for you to survive. I haven't tested it out that much, so I don't run it right now. I do just run the vulnerability for the extra damage. Alright, moving into alternate options, we can talk about the Doombringer. So the Doombringer shotgun, on this one, we are going to be using tac laser, regular tungsten ammo. For this one though, we are going to want to be running our vulnerability, but specifically we need to have a magazine increase on this one. The reason being, we're going to run lightweight style, so it's going to increase our reload speed dramatically, but it's going to take us down negative 30% magazine. So you need to have a magazine mod on your gun, because as you can see here, it takes you down to 1 bullet, and although the reload is fast, it still does good damage. Having 1 bullet is not that great. So what we're going to do here, we're actually going to swap this out to another one. If you give me a second to find it here. I know I have a mag in here somewhere. Really wish it was a little bit easier to organize, but on here I do have a magazine capacity mod that I will run with this, and then that will boost me up to 2 bullets in the mag. You really just need 1 with a decent roll. And of course I can't seem to find it when I'm looking for the video. I'll try to find it here later on in the video, and there it is right there. So recovery mod on this for PVE, you'd want the same thing as a vulnerability roll here for PVP. So now that I've got that magazine size mod in, you see 2 bullets, I do have the loadout active right now, Deviation, so we can go and add a little bit more to that, roll, more damage, go tactical, whatnot, so. The Doombringer is viable for PvP. I still prefer the pistol because the pistol lets you get out to more mid-range engagements, whereas your Doombringer, they have to be right on top of you. So if you've got somebody running power surge rifle and they're trying to kill you, the Doombringer, once you're past about here, this range is going to start to fall off really hard. Whereas your Wildfire Rapid is still going to be putting out pretty good damage even at that range. And then you can even back the Wildfire up even further, and you're still doing pretty good damage as long as you can control that recoil in. Alright, so on to melee is just whatever. Light strike for movement. There's some movement tech with the Masamune you can do. Basically, if you're to try to get an attack off and roll, it didn't let me do it. Come on. I guess it won't work on the target dummy, but what you want to do with this is if you're attacking, it has a quick draw lunge attack. If you do that quick draw lunge attack, right there, there it goes. You can actually animation cancel it as it's in the lunge. It's a little bit hard to do, but to get an extra roll distance. But, you have to have a live target. It won't work just out in the open. You can't just force that animation cancel. It has to have a target. But when you do it, it's really cool and you lunge super far. Also with the bingo, we'll talk about animation canceling. So normal rapid fire build, you're going to fire, 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 and it's going to go ahead and do, some damage. But with the rapid, and only with the rapid style calibration, you'll be able to animation cancel if you basically unscope and then rescope. You're able to animation cancel and get that damage off a lot quicker. So I don't know if I covered that calibration in there, but rapid style weak spot is the way to go. On to the gear set. So biggest thing with gear set for this is I'm looking to do damage. I'm not looking for massive survivability. So we are just trying to do as much damage as possible. You could run the Savior armor. The Savior armor has some nice perks on it, and definitely is more focused on that survivability. But if you look at the first 3 perks, you're only getting 10% damage. That's it as far as damage goes. It does have, I believe, a little bit more HP on it than actually the same HP as the other sets. So you're not getting an HP advantage. And the first 3 pieces of your gear are all about survivability, which is great. Number 4, you get the 20% movement, 20% all damage, um, reduction to torso and limbs. So you're basically getting 20% DR, 20% movement, 20% damage. But the entire set, even after using an activator, which again is conditional, so even all conditional, you're talking about 30% damage total. So what I like to run right now for PVE is the Renegade set. So here we are getting 15% reload speed, 10% damage. So we've already matched the almost unconditional damage. Just you always have that 15% reload, 10% weak spot damage. And then the third piece of Renegade gives you a stacking buff that basically, if we go to the target dummy here, as I attack here in the bottom corner and go to my buffs here, you can see Archer's Focus hitting an enemy gives increased weak spot damage 4% up to 10 times. So essentially this is 40% more weak spot damage if you're attacking the same target. So for PvE, that is really, really good, especially when you're, most of the things you're killing are going to be one taps anyways. When you finally run into that boss or mini boss or side boss or whatever that's starting to soak up bullets, your damage is actually going to be ramping up more and more and more. And there are a few mods in here that actually help with that ramping damage. So for PvE, I like to run that. For PvP, the way I have my armor set up, I run 2-piece Renegade on the mask gloves, old Huntsman boots for Bullseye. This is key for the build. And then I run Bastille top, Bastille pants, and then a Bastille helmet, and then I also have the Renegade helmet. So this is just a quick swap depending on if I'm doing PvP or PvE. So now going into the Bastille, when we're running the 2%, we have the same conditional HP above 70, 10% as the Savior set. So because I'm running both these, technically I'm always have the 10% damage above 70, plus 15% reload, plus 10% damage, plus I'm always running at least 2-piece Bastille, so 20% reload. So no matter if I'm PvP or PvE, I'll have 35% reload speed, 10% weapon damage, 10% weak spot damage. When we go into Bastille, the 3-piece for Bastille is 40% weapon damage while crouched for at least half a second. So kind of what that looks like is you go crouch, and then down here, this little buff, tactical combo, right here, Bastille. So while in Bastille, you have 40% extra damage. So very easy. We can easily stack that in PvP with tactical combo by just doing a quick little weapon swap, and then boom. It's harder to animation cancel while you're crouched in Bastille, but you can see, hitting for 45,000 to the head on a dummy, you're going to do less damage to a player. Still, it's very easy. I have gotten one-taps in PvP where they're just running around. The first shot is a headshot, not even using Bullseye, and it's an insta-down, hitting players for 10 to 18,000 damage on a headshot is just huge for getting that insta-down. Which, even if you have Savior set, I've hit people for like 8,000 on the first shot when they have 50% damage reduction plus their Savior set, and then the next shot is just an insta-down. Because after that, we're proccing Bullseye because it's our second bullet, and no matter where I hit them, it's a weak spot hit, so you're following, a possible 15,000 damage up with another, 10,000 damage, 25,000 damage, even with all DR from Savior set, still isn't going to save you. So getting into, now that we've covered all that, getting into the mods. I run most wanted. Here you're going to be looking for weak spot damage, weapon damage. Again, if you have a you know, HP reload speed on top of that, that's huge. I really like this precise strike. Basically, weak spot damage 12% for 3 seconds. You can stack it up to 3 times. So that will let you get a huge amount of weak spot damage. Especially when you're animation canceling and you're hitting that weak spot, weak spot, weak spot, weak spot. It's just stacking up and up and up and up. Or, like I said, for the most time in my ad clearing, I'm actually using the wildfire. And while we're using the wildfire, it's very easy just to stack that damage up. So you can kind of see in here, first hit 96, 85, 11, 13, 13, 13, 15. So you got to keep in mind with PVE too, I'm stacking up the Renegade helmet buffs. So these buffs stack on top of each other. So all of a sudden you start getting 15, 16,000 hits, 19, 20k, because we're stacking that weak spot damage up and up and up. And that's, 30, almost 40k DPS, and I don't have a pet out, deviant, anything like that. So, easy to stack up that damage. Mask, kind of the same thing. We're using these stacking buffs, so this is 15% attack. This one I got a really good roll on. I'd like to have that gold weak spot damage, that extra 4% weak spot, but because I also have a purple health and a blue damage roll on this one, it's kind of hard to replace. Not a really good alternate slot for the mask right now. Gloves, same thing. You're looking for weak spot, HP, reload, any of those. You do have an alternative, but from my testing, the weapon damage one doesn't stack up to the weak spot damage one. Once you start stacking up a little bit of weak spot damage, there's probably some breakpoint in there, maybe 125%, where this weapon damage falls off and the weak spot starts to take over. Boots, there are 2 mods primary for boots, well 3 that you can actually run. For PvE, Ruthless Reaper is amazing. After you get 2 kills, you get 100% of your magazine back. So you can imagine in PvE, you're running around, you kill the first mob, takes you 2 bullets because you're stacking up your damage in pro mode. The next mob you 1-tap because you got 2 kills, your sniper rifle goes from 3 bullets to 5 bullets. You 1-tap the next mob because all of your attack and buffs are stacked up. He dies in 1 bullet. Well, guess what? You just got a free refill on your bullet, so you just can mow through silos super quick with your sniper if you want to, and you can just basically be just running through even on pro mode, 1-tapping everything and never having to reload. Or if you have the wildfire out, you can basically be mowing all the mobs down. You're healing because you're killing them in their marks, so you get that 15% HP back. And then every time you kill them, you get 100% of your magazine back. So you basically have unlimited ammo, unlimited health, and you're just running through the instance. For PvP, you can run Secluded Strikes. Again, same stack of mods. The other one you can run is Covered Advance. So Covered Advance is nice because if you don't take damage within 4 seconds, 20% weapon damage. Secluded is only 15. Status damage doesn't matter to us, so I usually run the Covered Advance for PvP. And then getting in here to chest. So chest resist advantage is definitely, in my opinion, the meta for chest slot. You could run weapon damage here, but resist advantage offers so much survivability. The 15% weapon damage that you could use on this blue slot or the 10% HP, I still think the resist advantage is huge. Especially because we're playing a sniper playstyle. That means most of the time the thing that's going to be pressuring us most is going to be other snipers. So being able to survive a 1-tap is huge. So what this does is as you don't take damage, you get 10% damage reduction up to 5 times. So 50% damage reduction. So if you were getting shot at by a bingo or an unstable bomber build and they hit you for 10,000, you're only going to take 5,000. That's survivable. So really, really big. And then obviously you kind of seek cover, 5-second recharge. So it takes a few seconds to stack it back up, but it allows you that survivability from just not getting insta down. So definitely the meta slot on that. For pants, I just think there's one mod only, and that is going to be Unstoppable Precision. So this gives you 20% damage when you hit something more than 20 meters away. So obviously, if it's closer than 20 meters, you're not going to get anything from this. And then every additional meter, you get 1% damage up to 20 more. So if you're 40 meters away, again playing the sniper play style, that's 40% more weak spot damage, which is huge. Other than that, Deviance. So Deviance, I like to run the doggo. The doggo is great because if you can get him at a high level, get over to the doggo at high level, he's going to give you an extra 43% weapon damage. Now, weapon damage and weak spot damage, which is better for the bingo build? Weak spot still seems to be the best. Weapon damage does have a nice effect on it because your non-weak spot hits, your crit non-weak spot hits, just your regular white damage is going to go up when you're using weapon damage. It seems to have maybe a 60% scaling, so when you're looking at your mods, you're always going to be looking for weak spot, that gold weak spot roll. But if you get a gold damage roll and a blue weak spot roll, and then another good set of mods like HP, weapon damage reduction, magazine size, something like that, that's still probably worth using. So don't discount weapon damage. It's not as high of a tier, but if you have, a gold tier weapon damage and a purple weak spot damage, you're set. Don't think that that mod's trash just because you didn't get the gold weak spot damage roll. So weapon damage, I'd scale it like 60-70% of weak spot damage, so it's still very high value. Other for that, for PvP, the Mini Wonder Bullet Sponge is great because he's basically going to be soaking up all the bullets that people are shooting at you. Awesome if people are trying to rush you down with a sub, he gives you a chance to retaliate. For PvP and PVE, Mr. Wish is cool. He will go ahead and mark nearby targets with Bullseye, and he's got like a mini Glock automatic pistol, which is pretty fun. Tried him out for PvP. It doesn't really work awesome. He's got a good range on him. He might be viable. I would just prefer to run Mini Wonder or the Doggo for the extra damage. Other than that, you can run Samurai to counteract your if you've got people that are running Mini Wonders, Samurai is a great counter to them because Samurai is melee. Mini Wonder only affects bullets. You can kind of rock, paper, scissor it. Samurai beats Mini Wonder beats everything else. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the build. That's all gear, mods, choices on that. Food, assorted canned fruit is what I generally use, even PvP and PvE. Again, stacking that weapon damage. The only thing I might run is Stardust Ratatouille for the movement speed because that stacks nicely with... I think all my iced teas just died, yeah. So the other thing you might want to run is a iced tea. Iced tea gives you more movement speed and basically more stamina efficiency. So let me find that recipe here. So you can go ahead and run the assorted canned fruit, Stardust Ratatouille, or just go ahead and do a iced tea. And the iced tea gives you roll speed and movement speed after rolling. So the iced tea and the Stardust Ratatouille, if you're trying to be really evasive, that's a really good combo just for rolling all over the place, being super hard to hit. So if you're fighting in a war and you've got tons of people counter sniping and you're basically just really good at quick scoping or just kind of going in third person taking shots, that might be the play to do. If not, you can use the Bastille set, get that extra weak spot damage, try to get those extra one taps in. That about covers almost everything. And then I think that's it for this first video. So thanks. If you have any questions, hit me up in Discord or go ahead and leave a comment. Thanks. Bye.